My name is Maya Torres, and for 3 years, I've been invisible. Every night at 11 p.m., I clock into Castellano Industries and become a ghost. I mop the executive floors, empty trash bins, wipe down mahogany desks worth more than my annual salary. The people who work here during the day walk past me like I'm furniture. Their eyes slide right over me, never quite landing on my face. I'm 28 years old. I have a degree, well, half of one. I was at Stanford on a full scholarship studying engineering when my parents died in a car accident. Someone had to take care of my younger brother Carlos. Someone had to pay for his leukemia treatments. That someone was me. So I became a janitor. And a weekend warehouse worker. And a food delivery driver. 3 jobs, 80 hours a week, all to keep Carlos alive and keep us from drowning in the $340,000 of medical debt that grows bigger every month no matter how hard I work. I'm invisible here. But that's about to change in ways I never could have imagined. The Castellano family rules this building like royalty rules a kingdom, with casual cruelty and absolute certainty that they deserve everything they have. Damien Castellano, the CEO, has never once looked at me. 45 years old, expensive suits, carefully styled silver hair. He walks past me like I'm a shadow, sometimes so close I have to press against the wall to avoid being trampled. His wife Vanessa is worse. She leaves notes on my cart. The trash you are has left trash behind. Do better. Once she reported me for insubordination, because I accidentally made eye contact with her in the elevator. Their daughter Sienna is 23 and has never worked a day in her life. She's an influencer with 2 million followers who watch her spend her grandfather's money. Last week, she deliberately spilled an entire latte on a floor I just mopped, filmed my reaction for TikTok, and laughed while I cleaned it up. Content, she said, still recording. Thanks for being so authentic. I said nothing. I never do. I can't afford to lose this job. But there's one Castellano who sees me. Augustus Castellano, the founder, is 73 years old and still comes to the office every night. Insomnia, he told me once. The cancer treatment keeps him awake. He arrives around 2 a.m. and finds me in his executive office. The first time it happened, I apologized for still being there. He waved it off. Don't apologize for working, he said. It's all I've done for 50 years. That was 2 years ago. Since then, we talk. Real conversations. He asks about Carlos, about my abandoned degree, about my dreams. I listen to his stories about building the company from nothing, about growing up poor, about his regrets. My greatest failure, he told me once, was raising a son who never had to earn anything. I gave him everything, thinking I was being generous. Instead, I destroyed him. I didn't know what to say to that. Augustus lends me business books from his personal library. We discuss strategy, innovation, philosophy. He teaches me things they don't teach at Stanford. The family doesn't know about our conversations. They're never here this late. 3 months ago, Sienna dropped her Cartier watch in the hallway. When I found it during my rounds, I immediately brought it to security to return to her. She accused me of stealing it. Security searched me in front of a dozen employees arriving for the morning shift. They went through my bag, my pockets, even made me take off my shoes. I stood there burning with shame while people I'd never spoken to watched and whispered. The watch was eventually found in Sienna's car, where she'd left it. She never apologized. Instead, she posted on Instagram about how paranoid she'd been, how she'd totally overreacted, complete with a selfie and the hashtag first world problems. The post got 40,000 likes. I wanted to quit that day. But Carlos needed his medication. We needed food. Dignity doesn't pay bills. So I came back the next night and mopped the same floors and said nothing. Augustus noticed my red eyes. I told him I was tired. He didn't believe me, but he didn't push. Someday, he said quietly, people will see you for what you are. I didn't believe him. 6 months ago, Augustus told me his cancer was terminal. We were in his office at 2:30 in the morning. He said it so calmly, like he was discussing quarterly earnings. 6 months, maybe less. The treatment had stopped working. I'm tired, Maya, he said. I've built something big, but I don't know if I've built something good. The company will survive me. I'm not sure my family will. Then he asked me a question that seemed random at the time. What would you do if money wasn't an obstacle? If you could have any life, what would you choose? I thought he was being hypothetical, philosophical. So I told him the truth. I'd finish my engineering degree, pay for Carlos's treatment completely so I could stop being terrified every time he gets a fever, start a scholarship program for kids like me, brilliant students who lose everything to circumstance. Maybe work in innovation, I added. Design things that actually matter. Help people. Augustus smiled. It was sad and knowing at the same time. Success isn't earned in one lifetime, Maya, he said. Sometimes it's given so it can be earned in the next generation. Remember that. I didn't understand what he meant. Augustus Castellano died on a Tuesday at 1:47 in the morning. I found him in his office chair, looking peaceful. Like he'd just decided to rest and never woke up. There was a book open on his desk, one of the philosophy texts we'd discussed. I called 911. Did CPR even though I knew he was gone. The paramedics were kind but firm. There was nothing to be done. Damien arrived 30 minutes later, looking annoyed at being woken up. He glanced at his father's body with less emotion than I'd feel seeing a stranger, then immediately started making phone calls about controlling the news cycle. He never looked at me. I was just the janitor who'd found the body. I stayed until they took Augustus away. Then I finished my shift because I didn't know what else to do. I mopped the floors and cried silently and wondered if anyone else would miss him the way I would. The next morning, the news called him a titan of industry, a visionary, a legend. They didn't mention that he stayed late to talk to the night janitor. That wouldn't make a good headline. The funeral was massive. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities. People who probably never had a real conversation with Augustus but showed up to be seen mourning him. I attended in the back, wearing my only nice dress, a plain black one I'd bought at a thrift store for job interviews I never got. I felt out of place among the designer clothes and expensive jewelry. Damien gave a eulogy about what a great father Augustus was. How he taught him everything about business and family. How he'd carry on the legacy. It was all lies. Augustus had told me Damien hadn't visited him in 8 months, not even when the cancer got bad. Vanessa cried beautifully for the cameras. Sienna posted Instagram stories from the funeral, complete with sad face filters. I slipped out before the service ended. As I was leaving, I heard Sienna's voice, "Oh my God, even the janitor came. Probably hoping for free food." Her friends laughed. I kept walking. My car was in the distant parking lot reserved for service staff. Even in death, there were boundaries I wasn't allowed to cross. 1 week after the funeral, I received a certified letter. I was required to attend the reading of Augustus Castellano's will at the offices of Pemberton and Associates, attorneys at law. The date was 3 days away. Attendance was mandatory. I read it 3 times, confused. Why would I need to be at a will reading? I barely existed in Augustus's world officially. Just another name on the janitorial staff payroll. Maybe he'd left me something small. Maybe a few $1,000s, enough to make a dent in Carlos's medical bills. The thought made me feel guilty for even hoping. I told Carlos about it that night. He was feeling good, actually ate dinner without getting nauseous. Those days were becoming rarer. Maybe he left you like $1 million, Carlos joked. He was 16 and still capable of optimism despite everything. Maybe 100, I said. That would be nice. I had no idea that in 3 days, my entire life would detonate. I had no idea Augustus had built me a bomb and wrapped it like a gift. The law office was in the kind of building I'd only cleaned, never entered as a client. Marble floors, original artwork, furniture that cost more than my car. I arrived in my cleaning uniform. It was all I had that was even remotely professional. The receptionist looked confused when I said I was there for the Castellano will reading. The Castellano family was already in the conference room. Damien in a $3,000 suit. Vanessa in head-to-toe black Chanel. Sienna scrolling through her phone, bored. When I walked in, Sienna actually laughed out loud. "Oh my God, is the janitor here to clean the office?" Vanessa looked at me like I was something she'd found on her shoe. "Why is the help at a family meeting?" The attorney, a distinguished man named Harold Pemberton, cleared his throat. "Ms. Torres is named in the will. She has every right to be here." Damien scoffed. "My father probably left her some pittance. He was sentimental about staff." I sat in the chair farthest from them, trying to take up as little space as possible. I had no idea I was about to take up all the space in the room. Pemberton began reading the will. Small bequests to various employees and charities. Augustus had been generous but not extravagant. A few thousand here, 10,000 there. Then came the family section. "To my son, Damien Castellano," Pemberton read, his voice carefully neutral, "I leave my wisdom, which he never wanted, and my disappointment, which he earned." Damien's face went red. "What the hell?" "To my granddaughter, Sienna," Pemberton continued, "I leave my hope that she finds meaning beyond a screen and value beyond her appearance." Sienna looked confused, then insulted. "Is this a joke?" "To my daughter-in-law Vanessa, I leave my pity. You married wealth because you had nothing else to offer." Vanessa stood up, shaking with rage. "This is insulting." "Sit down," Pemberton said coldly. "I'm not finished." The room went silent. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then Pemberton dropped the bomb that would change everything. The entirety of my estate, including all shares of Castellano Industries, all properties, all liquid assets, all holdings totaling approximately $8.9 billion, I leave to Maya Elena Torres. Time stopped. Then the screaming started. Damien exploded out of his chair. "This is fraud. He was senile. She manipulated him." Sienna was shrieking. "The janitor? The fucking janitor." Vanessa looked like she might physically attack me. "This is impossible. This can't be legal." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. $8.9 billion. That couldn't be real. That was a mistake. A typo. Something. Pemberton raised his voice over the chaos. "There's more. I leave everything to Maya because she is the only person who earned my respect. Success is not something you're born into. It's something you prove through character, sacrifice, and dedication. Maya has worked harder in 3 years than my family has in their entire lives. She will do more good with this wealth than they ever could." He paused, letting that sink in. Then continued, "To ensure Maya's inheritance is protected, any legal challenge will result in the entire estate being donated to charity. The family has 1 year to prove they deserve even a fraction of this wealth by getting and keeping real jobs, living on median income, and contributing something meaningful." Pemberton kept reading through the screaming. "If Damien, Vanessa, and Sienna can prove in 1 year that they understand what real work means, by maintaining employment, living on $45,000 a year each, and demonstrating genuine personal growth, then Maya will receive 40% of the estate and they will split 60%. He looked up at the family. "However, if they fail to meet these conditions, or if they commit any crimes in attempting to contest the will, Maya receives everything." The letter concluded, "Maya, success is much given than it is earned. I gave you nothing you didn't deserve. Now earn what comes next. Make me proud. Augustus." I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. This couldn't be happening. Damien was already on his phone, calling lawyers. "I want this will contested. I want her investigated. I want." "You want to donate $8.9 billion to charity?" Pemberton asked. "Because that's what happens if you contest this will. Your father was very clear. Very thorough. He had psychiatric evaluations done monthly for the past year. He was completely mentally competent. This will is unbreakable." I finally found my voice. "I don't understand. Why would he?" "Because you earned it," Pemberton said simply. The media found out within hours. By that evening, I was the top story on every news channel. Billion-dollar janitor, gold digger or fairy tale? Castellano family disinherited for night cleaner. The woman who inherited an empire. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters camped outside my apartment. Someone offered me $5 million for an exclusive interview. Damien went on national television calling me a manipulative con artist who'd seduced his dying father. Vanessa gave a tearful interview about how I'd isolated Augustus from his family. Sienna posted a 20-minute YouTube video calling me every name you can imagine. The legal challenges came fast. Damien filed for a competency hearing. They demanded every conversation I'd had with Augustus be examined. They painted me as a desperate woman with medical debt who saw an opportunity and took it. And the worst part? Half the world believed them. Of course she manipulated him, the comments said. Why else would a billionaire leave everything to his janitor? Because he saw me as human, I wanted to scream. Because we talked about life and books and dreams at 2 a.m. when no one else cared. But I said nothing. I didn't know how to defend myself. The backlash got violent. Someone spray-painted thief on my apartment building. I received death threats, hundreds of them. People found out where Carlos went to school and started harassing him. Your sister's a whore, they told my 16-year-old brother with cancer. She fucked an old man for money. We had to move. Then move again when they found us. Then again. Carlos's leukemia relapsed from the stress. He ended up back in the hospital, sicker than he'd been in months. Maybe we should give the money back, he said from his hospital bed. I don't want you hurt because of me. I held his hand and cried. This was supposed to help us. Instead, it was destroying us. Damien's lawyers offered me a settlement, $50 million to walk away, sign a confidentiality agreement, disappear, and let the family have everything else. $50 million. More money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Enough to save Carlos, finish my degree, live comfortably forever. Take it, Damien said when he came to the hospital personally. Take it and disappear. Or I'll destroy you and your brother. I looked at him standing there in his expensive suit, threatening a woman holding her dying brother's hand. And I almost said yes. I couldn't sleep that night. Carlos was stable but sedated. I sat in the hospital chair and wondered if Augustus had made a terrible mistake. If maybe the family was right, I didn't deserve this. I was just a janitor who got lucky. My phone buzzed. An email from Pemberton. Come to my office tomorrow. There's something Augustus wanted you to have. The next morning, Pemberton handed me a sealed envelope marked, "When you want to quit." Inside was a letter in Augustus's handwriting. Maya, if you're reading this, they've broken you down. Good. Now you understand what I went through building this company. Every success I had, people said I didn't deserve it. That I was lucky. That I manipulated my way to the top. They couldn't conceive that someone from nothing could build something from nothing. My hands shook reading his words. You're facing the same thing now. They can't imagine you deserve this, so they'll create any narrative except the truth. The truth is simple. You earned this by being the only person who saw me as human instead of money. You earned this through years of thankless work while maintaining your dignity. The letter continued. Now I'm giving you the resources to reclaim your dreams. But only if you're strong enough to fight for them. Don't let them convince you that you don't deserve what I gave you. I gave it to you precisely because you do. Then came the part that changed everything. In my private office safe, combination is Carlos's birthday, you'll find evidence of what my family has really been doing. Damien has been embezzling for years. Vanessa and Preston Kane, the CFO, are having an affair and planning to loot the company. Sienna has been committing fraud with fake product endorsements. I read that paragraph 3 times. I've known for 2 years. I documented everything. But I never stopped them because I wanted to see if they'd change, if they'd prove me wrong about them. They didn't. Now you have a choice. You can expose them, protect the company and its 15,000 employees, and prove you deserve this inheritance. Or you can walk away, give it all back, and let them destroy everything I built. The letter ended. Success is much given than earned only when the recipient proves worthy of the gift. Show them what earned really means. Augustus. I sat there holding that letter, understanding finally what Augustus had really given me. Not just money. A mission. A test. A chance to be more than invisible. I went to Augustus's office that night. Security tried to stop me until Pemberton called and confirmed I now owned the building. The safe was behind a painting of Augustus and his late wife. Carlos's birthday, April 17, 07. Inside was a flash drive and another letter. The flash drive contained everything. Bank records showing Damien had embezzled $47 million over 6 years. Audio recordings of Vanessa and Preston planning to liquidate company assets and disappear. Screenshots of Sienna's fake endorsements, products she'd never used, companies she'd claimed to love but had actually been paid to promote without disclosure. Augustus had documented it all. Dates, times, amounts. Irrefutable evidence. The letter explained, I watched them destroy everything I valued, integrity, honesty, hard work. I couldn't stop them without destroying the family entirely. But you can. You have no obligation to protect them. Save the company. Save the 15,000 people who depend on it. They're counting on you now, Maya. Don't let me down. I sat in his office chair, my office chair now, and made my decision. I was done running. Done apologizing. Done being invisible. Time to show them what earned really means. I called Pemberton. I need you to arrange meetings with the SEC, the FBI, and the company's board of directors. I have evidence of crimes. What kind of evidence? The kind that sends people to prison. I spent 3 days preparing. I organized everything Augustus had left me, added my own documentation, and built an unbreakable case. Then I struck. The SEC got the embezzlement evidence. $47 million, meticulously documented. Damien was arrested at a charity gala in front of 500 people. The photos made every front page. The board got the evidence about Vanessa and Preston's affair and their plan to loot the company. Preston was fired immediately and faced criminal charges. Vanessa's social standing evaporated overnight. The FTC got Sienna's fraud evidence. Fake endorsements, undisclosed sponsorships, tax evasion. Her accounts were frozen. She was facing $2 million in fines she couldn't pay. But I wasn't done. I had one more move. I agreed to do a single interview. 60 minutes. Prime time. 60 million viewers. I was going to tell the truth. All of it. And let the world decide who really deserved what. I sat across from the interviewer in my apartment. No makeup team. No fancy clothes. Just me in a plain blouse, telling my story. I told them about working 3 jobs to save Carlos. About being invisible for 3 years. About the family's cruelty, Sienna filming me cleaning up her deliberately spilled coffee, Vanessa's degrading notes, Damien walking past me like I was furniture. Then I told them about Augustus. The 2 years of late-night conversations. The mentorship no one knew about. The books he lent me. The business lessons. The friendship. He didn't give me $8.9 billion because I was his janitor, I said, looking directly at the camera. He gave it to me because I was the only person who saw him as a person instead of a bank account. Because I worked harder than anyone he'd ever met. Because I proved every single night that I understood what success really means. I pulled out Augustus's letters and read parts of them on air. His own words, defending me, explaining his choice. Success is much given than earned, I said. But only to people who've already proven they know how to earn it. The interview aired on a Sunday. By Monday morning, public opinion had completely shifted. The comments changed overnight. She earned every penny. The family are the real con artists. Augustus Castellano saw what the rest of us missed. Damien's legal team abandoned him. He was convicted on 8 counts of embezzlement and fraud. 15 years in federal prison. Vanessa lost everything in the divorce Damien filed from jail. She ended up working retail, the first real job of her life. Her society friends wouldn't return her calls. Sienna was bankrupt from fines and legal fees. Her influencer career was dead. She got a job as a restaurant hostess, finally learning what minimum wage feels like. Preston got 12 years in prison alongside Damien. And because they'd committed crimes while trying to fight the inheritance, they'd forfeited their 1-year test. The clause was void. I kept everything. $8.9 billion. 15,000 employees depending on me. A company to save. And finally, people saw me. Not as a janitor. Not as a gold digger. As exactly what Augustus always knew I was. Someone who understood that success isn't inherited. It's earned. And I'd earned this twice. Once through 3 years of invisible work. And once through the courage to fight back when they tried to destroy me for it. 6 months after the will reading, I walked into Castellano Industries as its owner. I'd spent those months learning everything. Business law, corporate structure, financial management. I'd hired advisors I could trust and fired executives who'd enabled Damien's embezzlement. I called an all-hands meeting. 15,000 employees gathered in the headquarters auditorium and via video conference. They didn't know what to expect. The janitor turned billionaire. Some were skeptical. Some were curious. Most were just worried about their jobs. My name is Maya Torres, I began. You might know me as the night janitor who inherited this company. What you might not know is that I worked 3 jobs to keep my brother alive. That I dropped out of Stanford to take care of him. That for 3 years, I was invisible in this building while working harder than I'd ever worked in my life. I could see people leaning forward, listening. Augustus Castellano left me this company because he believed I understood something his family never did. That success isn't about what you're given. It's about what you do with it. I outlined my plans. Protecting every job. Raising wages. Improving conditions. Restoring the innovation pipeline Damien had gutted. This company is profitable again, I said. And every single one of you is the reason why. Thank you for staying. The applause was deafening. But running the company wasn't enough. Augustus had given me more than a business. He'd given me the power to change lives. I created the Augustus Castellano Foundation. Full scholarships for students who'd had to sacrifice their education for family. Not just tuition, housing, food, medical coverage for dependents. Everything they needed to succeed. The first year, 100 full scholarships. I personally reviewed every application. Read every story of kids working 3 jobs, taking care of sick parents, postponing their dreams because life had other plans. I funded every single one who qualified. Carlos helped me design the selection criteria. His leukemia was in remission, and he'd decided he wanted to be a doctor. He understood what it meant to have your future derailed by circumstances beyond your control. This is what Grandpa Augustus would want, Carlos said. He'd started calling Augustus that, the grandfather he never met but who saved his life anyway. By year 2, we'd funded 300 students. By year 5, the goal was 1,000. Not because I was generous. Because Augustus was right, success is much given than earned, but only when you give it to people who'll earn it again by helping others. I returned to Stanford and finished my engineering degree. It took 2 years of night classes while running a billion-dollar company, but I did it. Carlos was there at my graduation, healthy and strong. He'd applied to Stanford Pre-Med. With his grades and his story, he'd gotten in. He'd be a freshman in the fall. You know the best part? He said. I get to tell people my sister owns the company that invented the technology I'm studying. Because that was the other thing I'd done. I'd restored Castellano Industries' innovation pipeline. We were designing medical devices, sustainable technology, solutions to real problems. I hired 50 engineers from my scholarship foundation. Brilliant kids who'd had to wait years for their chance. They were hungry, creative, innovative. They understood what it meant to build something from nothing. We were revolutionizing the industry. Not because we had money, though that helped. But because we had purpose. Augustus had given me a company. I was turning it into a force for change. People magazine named me one of their most influential people under 30. Forbes did a cover story, The Janitor CEO. But the title I was proudest of was the one Carlos gave me, my sister, who proved everyone wrong. 3 years after the will reading, I received a letter from Damien in prison. "You were right. I didn't earn anything. My father tried to teach me, but I was too arrogant to learn. What you've done with the company, it's what he always wanted. I'm sorry for what I put you through. You deserved better." He saw that. I was too blind. I didn't respond. Some apologies come too late. Vanessa sent a letter too. She was managing a retail store now, living in a one-bedroom apartment, finally understanding what real work meant. "I was cruel to you. I'm sorry. You earned everything you have. I see that now." I filed both letters away. Forgiveness wasn't required for me to move forward. Sienna was the only one who never apologized. According to social media, she was trying to rebuild her influencer career, posting about learning from failure and finding authenticity. Everything was still about image for her. Some people never learn. But I'd learned something valuable from all of them, that the cruelest thing you can do to people who believe success is a birthright is to prove them wrong by becoming more successful through actual merit. Augustus had given me that chance. I'd earned the right to take it. Success is much given than earned, but only when given to someone who proves worthy by earning it again. 5 years after inheriting everything, I testified before Congress about wealth inequality and education access. I told them my story, the medical debt, the 3 jobs, being invisible, and how one man's faith in me changed everything. Success shouldn't depend on luck, I said to the committee. It should depend on character, work ethic, and determination. We need systems that identify and support people like I was, brilliant and hardworking but crushed by circumstance. The testimony went viral. The foundation expanded. By year 5, we'd funded 2,000 students. Carlos graduated Stanford with honors and was headed to medical school. He wanted to specialize in pediatric oncology. "So other kids like me have a chance," he said. I kept Augustus's last letter framed in my office, next to a photo of me in my janitor's uniform. A reminder of where I came from and why I'd been given this chance. Damien was still in prison. Vanessa was still working retail. Sienna was still chasing influencer fame. They'd gotten what they earned. And me? I'd earned what I'd been given by proving I could do more with it than anyone imagined. I stand in Augustus's office, my office now, and look at the city below. 15,000 employees going home to families they can support. 2,000 scholarship students building futures they thought were impossible. A company that's profitable and purposeful. Success is much given than earned. But only to those who understand that receiving the gift is just the beginning. The real work is earning it again by being worthy of what you were given. Augustus saw that in me when I was invisible. Now the world sees it too. And that's the greatest inheritance of all. Not the money, but the chance to prove that success isn't about where you start. It's about what you do with every opportunity, no matter how unexpected. I was a janitor who inherited a fortune. Now I'm a CEO who's changing lives. Not because Augustus gave me everything, but because he gave me the chance to earn what was given, and I refused to waste it. That's what he meant all along. Success is much given than earned. But only when the gift goes to someone who'll spend their life earning the right to have received it. I've earned it. Every single day. And I'll keep earning it for the rest of my life.